Good afternoon and welcome back to our Guilford Parent Academy and Social Emotional Learning Department sessions for our parents to dig into social emotional learning. We're so glad that you are here. I am Cynthia Brown. I am one of 4 SEL specialists in Guilford County Schools, and my teammate is here, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tawanda Carpenter. I am the Positive Support and Bullying Prevention Coordinator for Guilford County Schools. Thank you for being here today.
And so again, thank you for joining us. This is session 2 of a series that we're doing. Last week, we introduced social emotional learning, and this week, we're gonna start talking about bully prevention strategies that you can use at home. We hope that you saw that first session and you're ready to engage with us today. So we'll start as always with our district's mission and vision. So our mission and our vision statements for our district help guide our work and help us look to the future of what it is that we want for our students. And so when we look at this mission statement, we're saying that we want our students to graduate as responsible citizens, prepared to succeed in higher education or the career of their choice. And my favorite part of that statement is of their choice, because the better prepared our students and our children are, the more choices and options they'll have with how they want to spend their futures and what careers they would like to engage with. And our vision is about transforming learning and life outcomes for all children. And the word that jumps out for me in that statement is the word all. I love that we are working really hard to make sure that we are producing great outcomes for each and every one of our kids and your kids and our children in our district. So when we continue on talking about social and emotional learning, we also have a vision for that work, and that work is aligned to our district mission, vision, and values. And so with our social emotional learning, we hope to nurture safe, supportive, and equitable learning spaces where adults feel confident, empowered, and responsible for helping students develop into productive and responsible citizens who thrive in college, career, and life. And so with social emotional learning, we're pulling together those ideas from our district values and helping to make sure that our children are well-rounded. We know that academics are important, but we know that there are other skills that our students will need in order to meet our vision for them, which is success in their futures. And so we always start our work with an SEL opener. An SEL opener is a way to invite members into the group, invite you into the conversation, give you a chance to connect, build relationships, and build community. And for our opener today, we're doing a mood meter. We did a mood meter last week as well, where we had to pick words or colors on a matrix to tell how we felt. So today we thought we'd do something a little different and have you think about how you're feeling through Barney Fife. I hope you all are familiar with Barney Fife from Mayberry. And so when you reflect on how you're feeling at this moment in time, which Barney represents how you are feeling right now? So take a moment and think about that. And while you're thinking, I'll just share for me, I think I'm probably a number 1 Barney today. I'm in a good space. It's early in the day. I'm getting started. So there's all the positivity of the future of the day in front of me. So I'm excited about that. Tawanda, which Barney represents how you're feeling today?
I'm a ditto you, Cynthia, because I'm definitely feeling like a 1. Anytime I get an opportunity to speak for Guilford County School staff and parents, I'm always that 1.
That's awesome. All right. So just remember to check in as often as you can with how you're feeling. Think about if you're having patterns around the same feeling. Think about if there's something that you want to do to change how you're feeling. So using a mood meter is a great way to do that. It's also a great thing to think about doing with your children, having them to check in and think about how they're feeling at different points throughout their day. So thank you for sharing with that. So for our time today, this is our overview of what we'd like to accomplish. We want to review with you what social emotional learning is, and we'll also review our district definition for bullying. We'll talk about the types of bully behaviors and how that links to the SEL competencies. And finally, we'll share some strategies for you that you can do at home to help your child not be bullied or be the bully. So let's travel. This is a review of the competencies of SEL. So last week we talked about SEL is a process through which adults and children develop these skills. The skills that they're developing are grouped together into the 5 competencies. And so those 5 competencies are represented in this diagram in the orange, green, and yellow sections. And so the orange sections are about self. You see self-awareness and self-management. So it's about how you understand yourself, how you recognize your emotions, your strengths, your limitations, what drives you, and your core values, your personality. All of that is being aware of who you are. And then self-management is how you use that information to manage yourself, how you manage stress, how you manage your emotions, how you set goals and problem solve. And then the green sections are about working with other people, social awareness and relationship skills. So social awareness is about how you recognize the people in the space that you're in. Are you aware of other people's perspectives? Are you aware and appreciative of other people's differences, of cultural differences? Can you show empathy and compassion? Relationship skills is how you relate to individuals. And so when you're thinking about how you're building relationships with others, you're thinking about how well you communicate, how well you listen, how well you work together, team together. And so that's all relationship skills. And then the yellow gold is responsible decision making. And that's how you recognize problems, analyze problems, and come up with a variety of options or solutions, how you evaluate and choose the best solution, and reflect on what worked and what didn't and why. And that one connects most strongly to all the others. They all bleed together in some ways, but responsible decision making bleeds together more directly, because the more you build one competency, the better you'll be at responsible decision making. And so if you build your self-awareness, you make better decisions. If you build your social awareness, you make better decisions. And so that's how they work together. And then the bands around it talk about how those competencies show up for us in all of our spaces. Remember that SEL is a process for children and adults. And so it shows up throughout your life, throughout your day, throughout your week, at every stage. And so those bands are how it shows up in our classrooms, how it shows up in our schools, and how it shows up in our homes and our communities, which is why we're glad you're here to partner with us through this series, because we'll be hearing from you as well throughout the series. And that will help us partner with you about how we help build our social and emotional competencies for our students and your children.
Okay, so once again, my name is Tawanda Carpenter. I am the Positive Support and Bullying Prevention Coordinator for Gifford County Schools. And so I want to start by sharing the definition with each of you on bullying. And so when you have an understanding and you know the definition of bullying, this will allow you to respond to bullying in a very effective way. So what is bullying? So bullying is an unwanted aggressive behavior among school-age children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. Now the behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. I want you to stop for a second. I want to point out some key terms here in this definition. So when you look at the terms perceived power imbalance, and when you look at the behavior has the potential to be repeated over time, those two terms are terms that I will refer to later on in this session. So Cynthia, you can advance to the next slide, please. So we want to stop for a second and have you all to think about a time that you have experienced any type of bullying, whether it's being you, you're someone that you are very close to, yourself, or your kids. And so I want you to stop and think about your experience with bullying overall. And then Cynthia, you can share. And so this is information that we gathered from a previous session from parents and their experience with bullying. And so first we know that about approximately 9 individuals have been the victim of bullying. And we know about 5 people have been a bully sometime in their life. And about 7 individuals have had a child who has been bullied, and about 4 individuals who have a child who has been bullying. And so when you think about the stats, we know that bullying is a very pervasive problem in many of our school districts. And with that being said, Cynthia, if you don't mind advancing to the next slide, I want to share some stats with you about bullying. And so I will give Cynthia a second to get back. Yes. So as I stated, we know that bullying, just based on that quick survey that we just shared with you guys, I wanted to pull out more of the bullying statistics. And so one thing that I found very alarming to me is that approximately 160,000 students stay home from school each day because they feel unsafe. And about 75% of school shooters were reported to have been bullied, and that suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people as it relates to bullying. And the stat that you see in the box here is that 40% of suicide victims were bullied at some point in their life. And there's other stats out there, but I just wanted to bring your attention to remind each of you how serious the issue of bullying really is. Cynthia, you can advance to the next slide.
I want to just add a thought. One of the stats that just jumped out at me just today, even though I've seen this before, is that less than 10% of bullied children tell someone. And we're going to talk later about how you can create an environment where your child is willing to tell you that something's going on with them. But really think about that. Less than 10% tell someone, even though we've been talking about this with children for years, about telling someone and speaking up. And so we really want to make sure that we're creating the environment where our children feel safe talking to us or another trusted adult about what's going on with them.
Thank you, Cynthia. And so at this time, I want to share with you 5 types of bullying behaviors that we recognize within Gifford County School. And the first type of bullying is called verbal bullying, and that is saying or writing mean things. That's teasing, name calling, taunting, and inappropriate sexual comments. Next is social bullying. That's hurting someone's reputation or relationship. It can be in the form of spreading rumors, embarrassing someone in public. Physical bullying is typical when an individual hear the word bullying, they typically think of physical bullying. But physical bullying is that unwanted touch. It involves hurting a person's body or possession, hitting, spitting, and tripping and pushing, just any type of unwanted touch. Next is emotional bullying. That is a relationship problem in which an individual use power and aggression to control and distress. This is in the form of anger or in a tactic of fear. Last is cyberbullying, and that is the inappropriate use of electronic communication, such as sending mean text messages, posting statements online. You can advance to the next slide, Cynthia. So just a little more about cyberbullying. I want to make you aware of some of the social media platforms out there on cyberbullying. Some of the platforms are Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. On October the 21st, I will be conducting a cyberbullying workshop that I will go into more detail about some of the social media platforms, okay? So Cynthia, you can advance to the next. So I want to go back to that definition of bullying that I mentioned earlier about some of those key terms about involves a real or perceived power imbalance or the behavior, or it has the behavior potential to be repeated. And so when you think about that definition, we have to ask ourselves why students bully others. And there are four categories that are typically associated why students bully others. So the first category is that physical difference. And with that physical difference, we're looking at students are targeted because of their height, their weight, and maybe their age, their race, and their gender, which is all a common source of bullying. When we look at the category of behavior difference, here we're looking at the individuals that have poor social skills. They have more of that timid personality. Typically, they don't have a lot of friends at school. They're that loner, the students that maybe eat by themselves, okay? The next category is that social economic difference. And when we look at the social economic difference, especially we're talking about poor or wealthy children who may be singled out and bullied. Now, this can go both ways depending on the social economic status of the group. But regardless, whoever is in the minority will typically be the victim. And last, we're looking at the cultural difference. And here we're looking at individuals being bullied or singled out because of their religion, their sexual orientation, and many other cultural aspects can also be caused by bullying. Cynthia, you can advance to the next slide. So parents, we know that you guys play a very integral part in bullying prevention. And therefore, it is important that you are aware of your child's behavior so that you can begin to know the signs that are associated with bullying. So if you are aware of any of the following signs, please start with investigation if you notice these signs. So I'm going to start with the first category, which if you notice these signs that your child does not want to go to school, that is a reason that you might want to reach out to that school counselor, that school social worker. If you see a change, changing their method or route to school, they're frightened to walk to school, a change in their sleep patterns, changes in their eating patterns, their frequent crying, their angry, their mood swings have changed. Any type of unexplained bruises, cuts, and scratches, missing or damaged belongings or clothing, and they arrive home hungry. These are signs that you might want to do a little more investigation. You might want to have that conversation with your child. So these are some of the signs that you might want to pay attention if you notice that your child may be bullying. Well, maybe the bully. I'm sorry, that the child is being bullied. I'm sorry. And so if you see some of the signs such as they feel disconnected from school and not likely to, they're not liking school anymore. They lack quality friendships at school. They have low self-esteem. They're relatively not assertive, and they're just different in some type of way. You might want to, once again, have that conversation. And that last category is typically associated with the individual who is doing the bullying. So talk to your child about these signs. If you see him repeatedly teasing or intimidating or making fun or some other child, they feel the need to dominate or control others. They show no compassion for someone who is experiencing bullying. They repeatedly exclude or ignore the same target. They whisper behind the backs on a frequent basis. They feel disconnected from school and dislike school. They demonstrate very great leadership skills, and they demonstrate good verbal skills and ability to talk to themselves out of trouble. And these are just some of the signs. I encourage you to go out and do your own independent research of other signs that are typically associated with a student who's been bullied or a student who is doing the bullying. So Cynthia, you can advance to the next slide.
And I wanted to
Oh,
add,
okay.
so going back to that thought that I was sharing earlier about less than 10% report. So I was just sitting here thinking, like, if we are paying attention to these signs and then we're asking the questions, that's also going to help them to then report and get that 10% up. I was telling Tawanda recently, I was watching a movie with my kids, and the teenage boy had come in the house from he had some other boys had taken his shoes, and they were kind of verbally bullying him, but then they took his shoes. And so when he came in the house, he was upset, and he rushed past his parents. He spoke, but he rushed past them, and he didn't have his shoes on. And the dad said to the mom, did he walk by and didn't have his shoes on? And the mom said, yeah, he's probably just going through a phase. And so they missed the opportunity to talk to their child or notice. Like, I think that one, for me, I feel like all of us would respond to our child coming home with no shoes on. But it's a metaphor for the idea, or an example, not a metaphor, but an example of the idea of noticing things that we might brush off as typical, kids going through their stages, when really there's something else there we need to find out about. So just being able to pay attention to these signs, it doesn't mean the signs alone, these individual signs don't mean your child is being bullied or that they are bullied, but it's a place to stop and think and talk about it.
Thank you, Cynthia.
My pleasure.
So here are some strategies for you guys, and we're going to go back to that framework that Cynthia mentioned earlier with the social and emotional learning. There are 5 competencies. So what is the connection between bullying what is the connection between bullying prevention and social and emotional learning? And when we think about that connection, we have to think about preventing and reducing bullying, which requires a focus on social, emotional, and the moral climate of the school, as well as on the social and emotional competencies of the entire school body. So we know that based on evidence-based research, we know that social and emotional learning can dramatically reduce bullying because it teaches the skills and the attitudes and also the behaviors that students who bully are typically deficiency in. And these deficiencies are also, lack of those deficiencies are probably the reason why they resort to bullying. And so Cynthia, you can advance to the next slide. And so I want to kind of connect that more because I want you to think back to those 5 types of behavior bullying, 5 types of bullying behavior, which is emotional bullying, social bullying, and verbal bullying, and cyberbullying. And so I'm going to do a crosswalk between those behaviors as well as the 5 competencies. And so the first 2 competencies of that social and emotional learning is self-awareness and self-management. And when we think about those 2 competencies, here we're looking at recognize and manage emotion in order to respond to conflict in a calm and assertive way. When we look at those individual, or when we look at those competencies as an individual, let me first start looking at self-awareness. I apologize. So that first competency of self-awareness is really helping an individual to build their self-confidence. So as parents, we're going to help our child to identify emotions, whether they're good emotions or bad emotions. That is the time to have that conversation. We're going to also, when we identify those emotions, we're going to identify ways that we can strengthen them to be an advocate for themselves. The next competency is self-management. And here, that's more of that physical bullying. So we're going to help students to understand their impulse control. We're going to give them tools and techniques to be able to relax and work on that stress management. But remember, adults, we are the role models here. So we're going to set the example, in particular when we think about self-awareness, identifying our own emotions. The next behavior is social bullying, and that competency that relates closely to social bullying is social awareness. So when we think about social awareness and social bullying, here we're looking at being tolerant and appreciative of difference and interact empathetically with peers. So here we're going to help our child or the student to empathize with other cultures, respecting others, and appreciating diversity. The next competency and the next behavior is verbal bullying, and that behavior is related to relationship skills. So we're going to initiate and sustain friendships and other relationships. Here we're going to help our child to work more in teams and to build other circles outside of their own individual circles, making new friends. So if there is an incident, they can have other teams that they can engage in or engage in communication. And communication is also one of those skills that we're going to help our child to be more of an advocate, so that if there is an incident, the communication skills will allow them to speak up for themselves. And last is that social engagement, and that is just building more circles so that they can have an outlet if that one circle becomes damaged. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. I have Cynthia to help me with that here in a second. And last is that cyberbullying. And here we're looking at responsible decision making, thinking through and resolving social problems effectively and ethically. Here we're going to help our child or students to identify problems. Before they send that inappropriate text message, what are some healthier ways to kind of deal with this before you send that inappropriate text message or post something inappropriate on TikTok? We're going to help them to analyze the situation, and we're going to give them the skills to kind of solve the problem. And so I'm going to stop here. Cynthia, is there anything that you want to add here? If not, we can go to the next slide.
And I will say that these competencies, they overlap in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And so they're all going to support each of these types of bullying, in that we're, especially with the understanding yourself and what's going on with you, and the self-management and the responsible decision making, they're all going to overlap and help through any of these types of bullying. So yeah, I would just ditto what Tawanda said.
Okay. Thank you, Cynthia. We can advance. Oh, back to you,
So
lady.
So we're going to talk about a few strategies about creating a safe and supportive environments. That's a part of our vision statement, that we have safe and supportive environments for our students at school. And of course, I know you want safe and supportive environments for your children at home. And so that safety and that support is helping them to get their needs met so that they're not the bully, but also to be heard and learn how to manage themselves so that they are not being bullied. And so we're going to talk about a few of these strategies. And one of the ones that that isn't on the screen that we want to talk about is helping your child take their power back. And so in the definition, when it talks about that power imbalance or perceived power imbalance, sometimes it's a perceived imbalance. And when you teach your child to be self-confident, teach them to have self-esteem, understand their strengths, they begin to have more self-efficacy, and they can resist some of that stuff. And especially some of the verbal stuff where they can just learn strategies to let those verbal comments just bounce right off of them. And a lot of times when our children take their power back, the bully diminishes because their goal is the power. And so that diminishes them, that bullying situation. But so going with the ones here, the predictable routines, we talked about that a little bit last week about the benefits of having a predictable routine. It helps children, it helps people, but children in particular, when they have a routine where they can anticipate what's going to happen, how things are going to go, they are it calms the amygdala, and it creates a space of calm and comfort. And so and it also helps them to be resilient when things aren't on routine. So it doesn't mean that you're inflexible, but when they're used to a routine, a bump comes along, but they can fall back into the routine. It helps them to know that they can be resilient in situations. And so that's really important. But the predictable routine is also important for you as a parent, because you get to notice when things are out of routine. And so if you have a predictable schedule or plan of how you do things in your home, when it doesn't go that way, you begin to notice it, and you can again engage in conversation better with your child. You'll notice things going on with them. You'll notice that they're not getting up on time every morning because they don't want to go to school when they normally do. Something might be going on. Like some of those questions that Tawanda had on the previous slide will show up when you have those routines. Maintaining positive, open relationships. And so we all want to have great relationships with our children. We talk to our children, but you want to make sure that that relationship is open enough that they can express themselves. And that can be a little tricky with parenting, because as adults, sometimes we have a line that we don't want kids to cross, like a child in a child's place kind of idea, or we don't want to open ourselves up all the time for them to see who we are or where we're vulnerable, because we're their parent and we want them to see us as a strength. But when you open that up, that gives that space for them to be able to share and be willing to share with you even sensitive things, which is actually a different tip. But it just gives a space where I know I can talk to my parent about this. I know where they're coming from, and they're going to know where I'm coming from. And again, that's going to go back to that 10% that don't report. They're going to feel safer talking to you about hard stuff when you have that open relationship. In my family, we try to accomplish that. We do a lot of dinner time conversations where sometimes we'll pose a question and everybody answer the question. Sometimes we're just talking about our day. Sometimes we do some practices with emotions that we'll talk about next week with helping building their emotion vocabulary. But sometimes we have conversations around sensitive topics. Like once we had to tell about something that made us feel sad. And that gave us a chance, my husband and I, a chance to be vulnerable with them by letting them see that we had some sad moments that we wanted to share, and they could experience that with us. And that was a hard conversation, and there were tears, but it was a conversation to let them know that there's nothing off bounds, out of bounds, that they don't always have to say positive, fluffy stuff. The third one is help your child maintain and engage in positive social activities. And so you want to help your child have outlets that are healthy, You want them to learn to work with other people and engage with other people and a variety of people. So having positive social activities also creates a sense of belonging. A lot of times, children who are bullied or even children who are the bully, they're outsiders. They don't feel like they belong. They don't find positive connections. And so you can help them do that by finding a variety of ways for them to engage. So if they like drama, let them go to the drama club. If they like sports, let them go to sports. My girls like Girl Scouts. They go to Girl Scouts. Boys can go to Boy Scouts. But there's a lot of different ways to do that, even with play groups. But letting them engage with different people and showing them how to do that if they have trouble with that. And so if your child is shy maybe and they don't understand how to connect to other people, help them to do that and kind of be the model and show them and have the conversations about it so that they can then engage with other people and have that create that sense of belonging. That also goes with the tip that Tawanda was talking about on the previous slide, is that if your children have multiple social groups, they have other places to go. So say they have one social group, a group of friends that they're with, that bullying starts to happen or something uncomfortable, even if it doesn't rise to the level of bullying, excuse me, but something uncomfortable starts to happen that they can't problem solve, they have other outlets. They don't feel like I have to fit in this group or I have nothing. They have other outlets and other groups that they can be a part of and feed that positive interaction that they want, and they can avoid the negative interaction. Helping your child develop skills to engage in uncomfortable conversations. That goes a little bit with what I was saying when I was talking about the open relationships, but making sure that they understand that even hard stuff to talk about is okay to talk about, particularly with you as their parent. You want them to feel like they can tell you anything. And that just creates some comfort and safety. And they may never have anything super dangerous or worrisome to tell you, but they still can come to you when there's something uncomfortable. And so I was saying that we have a lot of family conversations in my family, and we do that as a family. There's 5 of us, but I have expressed to them that if you want to talk about something sensitive that you don't want to talk about in front of everybody, and you want to talk to just me or just daddy, that's okay too. And so they know that you may have other people that you want to bring into the fold that they can talk to. My children know that they can talk to their grandparents. They know that they can talk to Aunt Tracy. And so whoever that trusted adult is, when I was a child, other than my family, I talked to my Sunday school teacher. So having trusted adults that they can talk to, that you definitely approve of, can also help kids to be able to express themselves and solve problems. So it's not just how to report that they're being bullied, but also how to solve problems when they feel like they're being bullied. And sometimes the person who's the bully, helping them find what the problem is with them that makes them want to lash out in that way. Because the bully in some ways is a victim as well. There's something going on with that person that makes them bully. There's something missing or something going on with them. And so we have to problem solve for them as well. And so when I was in my previous role as a principal and I was dealing with bully concerns, I worked with the bully, and the bullied on strategies. And so the bullied, I worked on that taking your power back and using your voice and those kinds of strategies. But with the person who was the bully, I worked with them on trying to figure out why they were behaving in that way. And once I could figure out what they were trying to accomplish, what their goal was, then I could try to help them figure out ways to meet that need in a better way, in a safer way. And so just thinking about that as a parent. And then that last one is building in time for emotional conversations and reflection. And so the emotion part of it, just like when we were talking about the opener with the mood meter, with the Barney Fife, the E in SEL is for emotion. Emotion is a huge part of all of this work. We'll talk about emotion in all of our sessions because our emotions are with us all the time. And the purpose of our emotions is to give us information, to let us know what's going on with us, if there's something we're worried about, stressed about, if we're in a good space, if we're feeling tired, whatever it is, it's giving us information to problem solve. And so when you start teaching your children to think about their emotions, to understand what's driving their emotions, to pay attention to how they respond out of those emotions, and teaching them how to name their emotions, all that stuff about emotions is helping them to manage emotions. so that they're not choosing outcomes that are inappropriate, or they're not putting themselves in situations that are dangerous. And so that works again for both the person being bullied and the person who is doing the bullying, is really focusing on that. We do a lot of work with vocabulary words with our children at home and at school, is teaching them the vocabulary words that they need to access to be able to describe how they're feeling, and then helping them also to match up when their emotion matches the behavior, because their emotions aren't wrong. When I talk to students at school who felt anger, they're not wrong to be angry, but the intensity of their anger might not match what they're mad about, or what they chose to do with that anger, the behaviors that they chose were inappropriate. So I was always careful to tell students, like, you can be mad, that's your choice, that's, you know, that's your emotion, but how you act out of that behavior is what we need to work through. And so having that work with your children at home and at school is going to help them, again, manage their behaviors better. All of our negative behaviors, all of the things that we do that we regret later, that we didn't get the best results from, come out of some sort of emotion. And so if we can manage our emotions to get better outcomes, we're going to be in a better place. So hopefully you heard a tip there, or on the previous slides with Tawanda, that will help you help your child to not be bullied or not be the bully.
Okay, and so as we come to our end, I just want to provide you guys with some online resources. We have PACER, National Bullying Prevention Center. This is my go-to site. They have a plethora of information out there, particularly have a whole site for parents, resources for parents, ways to engage in conversations with your child. Teaching tolerance, stopping bullying, the framework for school-wide bullying and safety. They're all equally great websites. So I encourage you to go out there and just pour down additional resources if you're ever seeking additional resources. Cynthia, next slide. And so October the 21st is Unity Day. And this is a day, why are you smiling, Cynthia? This is a day.
I like the idea of unity. I just like the idea of unity.
Yes, our Unity Day. This is a day this is a day that we wear and share orange to prevent bullying and promote that kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. This day is set aside as part of National Bullying Prevention Month. And so this is a time that in October that individuals from across the nation and around the world unite in a campaign to keep all of our youth safe from bullying. And so with that being said, I want to kind of end with our bullying pledge. And so I'm going to read this pledge as creating a world without bullying. So I want you to, when you have time, to take this pledge, and I want you to be very serious and when you take this pledge, because it is saying that you are going to take a stand against bullying. So I will read this. Cynthia, if you want to join along, that's fine. And I'm going to start with I commit. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. I commit
to stand up for students.
And I will
speak up in support of
educators, creating safe and affirming learning environments. Have strength to unite those who want everyone to feel safe at school, in their community, and online. Show that I care and am against bullying and united for kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. Send the message to students who are bullied that they are not alone. Create a culture in which more people are supportive of others. You guys, I thank you for taking that pledge, and I do believe I'm going to turn it back over to Cynthia.
All right, so we always end our sessions with optimistic closures, something to think about as we close out the session and to have you leave with reflection. And so we want you to do, this is called One Thing. And the quote here says, just one moment can change everything. Just one moment can change everything for a child who's being bullied or who has bullied. And so for our optimistic closure, we want you to think about one thing that you can commit to doing, that you heard today, or something that we said that sparked an idea for you, whether that's something with connecting with your children, talking to someone else about this information, someone in your family, a partner or a spouse, could be a commitment, doing one of the activities like building a routine. Mine that I'll share is a little shallow, but I love Unity Day, and want to make sure that my one thing is that I go and get my kids something orange to wear. I have something orange to wear, but I need to get something for my children. But I also do want to make sure I continue to have those conversations with my children so that they know that they have a safe space to talk to me and their father. Tawanda, what's the one thing you can commit to doing?
You know, emotions are real, Cynthia, and sometimes as human, we tend to just sweep some emotions under the rug. And so my one moment that I'm going to change is to continue to be very mindful of not only my emotion, but I am a parent too, and being mindful of her emotions as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so thank you again for joining us and for checking us out to talk about bully prevention strategies. We will be back again, continuing the series. Next time will be about self-awareness and responsible decision-making. We do appreciate your feedback. If you could capture this QR code or go to the bit.ly at the bottom of the page and provide feedback on today's session, it does help us to make modifications to the next sessions, and so we really would appreciate your support in that. And then if you should need anything, if we spark a question or idea or thought for you during this session, you can reach out to us via email. There's Tawanda's email and there's my email. You can also follow us on Twitter. You see Tawanda's first, that TL LaShawn is Tawanda's handle. Then you see our department handle, the SEL department, and then after that is my handle. And so you can reach out to us in that way as well. So again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for engaging. We hope you heard something that you can use, and have a great rest of your week.
Bye-bye.